Hello everyone. Welcome to Hollywood Recaps. Today we will be watching a summarized version of a horror and thriller movie from 2015 called The Invitation. Beware of the spoilers ahead. So, sit back, relax and let's begin. The scene begins with Will driving his girlfriend, Kira, through town. Kira tells Will that they don't have to go to a dinner party they were invited to. We learn that the invitation was from Will's ex-wife, Eden, who had planned a dinner party for some guests, whom she hadn't seen in over 2 years. Will tells Kira that the last time he saw Eden was when he caught her with another man, David, at a supermarket before she disappeared. While Will and Eden were still married, Eden met her now new husband, David, while in grief counseling. This all happened before their divorce. All of a sudden, Will accidentally hits a coyote with his car. Will gets out to discover an injured crying coyote lodged underneath. He tells Kira to get back in the car. To end its suffering, he kills it with a tire iron. Shocked by the event, they carry on driving. As the sun sets, they drive through a series of dark, gloomy streets, situated in the Hollywood Hills. They reach the home in the canyons of Los Angeles. Will and Kira enter through the tall black patterned gates to the estate. Kira is impressed by the house and cannot believe that Will used to live there himself. Will tells her that Eden's family is very wealthy. Upon arrival, Will sees a memory of a young boy, Ty, who is playing with some toys in the living room. He hears a man telling Ty that the dinner is ready. Both Will and Kira are greeted by longtime friends. We meet a woman called Gina, who mentions her boyfriend, Troy, is running late, former friends, Claire and Ben, and Tommy and his boyfriend, Miguel. Eden appears from upstairs. An eerie Eden embraces Will like an old-time friend and tells him that she missed him. Kira greets Eden and David appears from a room, embracing Will and Kira a bit too personally. As everyone listens to David's welcoming speech, Will notices a half-naked woman eyeing him from a bedroom. As David toasts to new beginnings the woman from the bedroom, Sadie excitedly runs into the room to join. Eden tells everyone that they met Sadie in Mexico and that she would be staying and helping them out. Sadie turns to Will and tells him that she has heard a lot about him. After an awkward moment, Kira breaks the silence by telling everyone about the coyote they hit along the way. David admires how Will put the poor animal out of his misery. Will asks if he could walk around his old home. Will ventures into the kitchen to get a glass of water. He has a flashback to a pain-stricken Eden trying to kill herself with a knife over the same sink. Eden frightens Will as she joins him in the kitchen. He soon notices that Eden had put bars on the windows. She tells him that she got it for security reasons after living there alone. The conversation then turns to Eden's trip to Mexico. An overly happy Eden tells Will that he doesn't have to worry about her anymore as she is different and free from pain. Ben interrupts the conversation by telling Will that Eden has changed and is happy. Eden tells Ben that they were discussing the topic of pain and how it's optional. She explains how grief and pain are just chemical reactions and they can be changed and expelled from their bodies. Ben tells her she sounds like a pamphlet and teases her about her new philosophy. She tries to take this in jest, but when he tells her the philosophy sounds crazy, she slaps him hard across the face. She snaps out of her eerie state and tells him to stop being a clown and learn things. She exits. Ben asks Will how he's been doing, given what he's gone through. Will seems broken and somber still. Eden apologizes to Ben when they re-emerge from the kitchen and offers him a drink, which he says he will never refuse. Claire steals Will away and they catch up on things. As they watch from the stairs, Claire mentions how strange it is that they are all here after so many years. A friend of David's, Pruitt, arrives. Gina voices that she is worried about Troy being so late. She complains about not having service up there in the hills. Still sitting on the stairs, Will notices that David locked the main door, locking them all inside. After realizing that Will saw him, David explains to Will that there was a home invasion in the canyon about a month earlier. Will suggests David leaves the key in the door in case they need to get out in an emergency. He puts the key back in the door and tells Will that he does things a little differently, as it is his house. Will is surprised by the comment. Eden asks Will to get some more firewood. Will pauses by a bedroom but then continues to the backyard to get the wood. He has a flashback of a children's birthday party in his mind. From outside, Will sees Eden enter her bedroom and shove something into a nightstand. Will returns inside with the wood and then sneaks into Eden's room. He finds a bottle of pills in an unmarked bottle and pockets a few. David finds Will snooping around and tells him that the food is nearly ready. He looks at the master bathroom and has a flashback to Eden and him in the bathtub and their young son walking in to say goodnight. In the living room, everyone is talking about how Eden, David, Sadie, and Pruitt are in a cult called The Invitation, which is why they were in Mexico. The others are lighthearted about this, teasing them. David tells them it's a group that comes together to help each other in their grief that now has thousands of members all over. David says he wants to show them a recruitment video. The video is hosted by a leader, Dr. Joseph, who tells them that the human brain can heal and he has made his life work to rewire traumatic experiences. He says they are not alone and they transcend. It then cuts to a woman in bed, surrounded by Dr. Joseph and some members as they assist her in suicide. In the living room, this scene unnerves everyone. Eden tells them the woman had cancer and she let her death be filmed to show others that it's nothing to be afraid of. David tells them that he used to do cocaine to deal with his grief, but he has changed since joining the invitation. Eden says that she is finally happy despite the grief she used to feel. She tells everyone that she almost couldn't carry on with life. Will gets angry at all this talk of getting over grief. He stands up to confront Eden by saying that she is not the only one grieving. Eden snaps out of her happy eerie state and begins to tear up. Will is escorted out of the room to calm down. The doorbell rings. Pruitt and David answer the door and talk to some unseen neighbors. Will is distracted by David at the front door. David tells Will that it was just some neighbors looking for a party. Will shows the pills he took from Eden's bedroom to Miguel, who is a doctor. He is told that it's a barbiturate, which is only dangerous if you take too much of it. Tommy tells both of them to join the party and not be antisocial. The group is given wine again and they all toast Tommy and Miguel if they feel that the night is strange, but Tommy tells him it's just a friendly, harmless reunion. To apologize for forcing everyone to watch the video, David suggests they all play a game that he learned in the invitation called I Want, where everyone just expresses what they want. Sadie starts, saying she wants to tell everyone that she loves them, naming everyone by name. Sadie then kisses Gina hard on the lips. Gina goes next. She wants some of the cocaine that David used to have. As he goes to get the drugs for her, she tells him she was just making a joke. David denies this and hands it over to her. Pruitt goes next. He wanted to tell the group about his wife, Margaret. He tells them that after a drunken night, she died when he got in a fight with her, and after he assaulted her, she fell and hit her head and died. Pruitt tells them he served jail time for the mistake, but it didn't help rid him of the angry person he was. It wasn't until he joined the invitation that he became a better person. Claire voices that she feels uncomfortable. She tells David that it feels like they are trying to sell them something. Eden goes next. She wants to kiss Ben. With David's permission, he agrees to play along. Ben pecks Eden, but suddenly she goes in for a full kiss. Tommy goes next. He states that he wants out from someone in the room. Now feeling extremely uncomfortable, Claire tells everyone that she would like to leave. David tries to persuade her to stay, but Will tells him he should let her leave if she wants to. Pruitt tells her he parked in front of her and will have to move his car. Will watches from the window, suspicious. Sure enough, Pruitt does move his car to let Claire out. Pruitt gets out of his car to help direct Claire out of the drive. As Claire starts to drive forward, she is stopped by Pruitt, who runs to speak to her. David suddenly calls for Will, who is still watching from the window. He persuades Will to talk to him alone. David asks why Will is so suspicious of him. He says Will seems distant and off, worried about David locking the door or Pruitt moving his car. Will apologizes, saying maybe he wasn't prepared to be at the home he used to live in. Pruitt walks back inside and tells David and Will that he tried to apologize for telling her the traumatizing story of how Margaret died. They all head upstairs to eat. At the dinner table, Will starts to have a flashback of a birthday party. We learn that it was his son's 5th birthday party where he was accidentally killed in some unseen way. Feeling trapped in his mind, he yells out. Will goes outside for some fresh air, feeling distant from the group. As he heads back inside, Will notices Sadie making funny, strange faces in the mirror. Back outside, Sadie approaches Will. She tells him that Kira doesn't seem to be into him. She begins to flirt with Will, asking him to sleep with her. She tells Will that in Mexico, men and women would often sleep together spontaneously. He rejects her and tells her to go back inside. Tommy joins Will outside. Will voices his concerns about the party, but Tommy tells him Claire left because she's sexually awkward and Troy is unreliable, so his absence isn't suspicious. Tommy tells Will his weird behavior is making the others feel uncomfortable. They hug and Tommy goes back inside. Will's phone chirps as he can get a signal briefly. He listens to his voicemail. It is from Troy, who says he has arrived at the party early and is about to go inside but forgot the dessert he promised. He asks Will to pick it up instead so he doesn't have to go back down the canyon. Will decides to join everyone at the table. As he sits down, the lights go off and both David and Eden appear with a birthday cake for Miguel. Miguel is surprised as his birthday is a week away. Will questions Eden and David about Troy. He tells everyone about the message he received when Troy was right outside. Eden and David say Troy never got there and everyone tries to calm Will down. But he accuses the others of being polite and continues demanding to know where Troy is. He asks why they were invited to a dinner after a 2-year absence, with 2 strangers from the cult being present. He talks about the invitation and says it's a brainwashing tactic and the cult teaches them just to deny everything by erasing their grief. In a mad rage, Will tells Eden that their son, Ty, dying was a tragic event and that he should never be forgotten. He begs Eden to tell him where Choi is and asks David why there are bars on the window and the doors are locked. He also points out that he found the large bottle of pills in Eden's room. Kira tries to persuade Will to leave with her, but then the doorbell rings. It is Choi, who says he had to turn around after arriving early because he got a call from work. Everyone stares at Will as if he's officially lost his mind. Will begins to cry. Ashamed and embarrassed, he apologizes to everyone and decides to go wash his face in the bathroom. Will has another flashback of when he was teaching his son Ty how to wash his hands. He goes out to the backyard and is greeted by Kira. He tells her he's not okay because he is still dealing with the pain of his son's death. We soon learn that another child killed Ty with a bat after they were playing around at his birthday party. He tells Kira he doesn't think she can help, which upsets her, and she goes back inside. Back inside, Will asks Eden and David if he can go and see Ty's room. Will has a flashback to his son sleeping inside. Through the window, Will sees David go into the backyard and light a red lantern perched on a wall. Will retrieve the laptop that the recruitment video was played on. He watches more of the video from Dr. Joseph, who tells the members to not be scared and to remember that a reward is upon them if they take the steps and believe and give themselves over. Pruitt knocks on the door and tells Will everyone is waiting for him. Will is led upstairs where everyone is poured another glass of wine. The members of the invitation seem happy about this. David suggests they should all take a moment to look at each other and then raise their glass in a toast to a better world and peace. Gina drinks her glass right away. All of a sudden, Will jumps out of his seat and smashes everyone's wine glass out of their hands, yelling at them to not drink it. Sadie suddenly goes into a fit of madness, yelling at Will that he is ruining everything. After a struggle between them, Will flings her off and she hits her head on the drawer. Now, unconscious, everyone gathers around Sadie to see if she is okay. Kira soon notices that Gina is not breathing and has foam coming out of her mouth. Miguel tries to revive Gina with CPR. There is no reception and Ben soon realizes that the door to the room is locked. In a dramatic turn of events, David shoots and kills Miguel. Pruitt takes the gun away from David while Kira, Ben, and Will back away. Pruitt then shoots Choi dead before venturing to another part of the house. Ben, Will, and Kira try to escape, grabbing Tommy with them, but he charges at Eden, who slashes him with a knife. The now unconscious Sadie bolts towards Will. She tries to bite his neck, but Will shoves her away. Ben has now separated from Will and Kira, who find themselves locked in a room. They can see David in the backyard stabbing Ben, and then Pruitt joins, shooting Ben dead. Will tries to calm Kira down. They step back into the house where Will spies David trying to calm down Eden, who is upset about all the murder taking place in exchange for the poisoning. David points out that they were chosen and this is how they can leave the earth. Will waits until both have gone and then Kira, and he heads upstairs to an exit that leads to the garage. Will spies Sadie dying on the couch, having impaled herself with a fireplace poker. As she slowly dies, unable to make noise, he takes the fireplace poker from her lap. Upstairs, Will learns the door to the garage has been removed over the last few years. Pruitt ventures upstairs with a gun. Will emerges, knocking it out of his hand. They scuffle. Pruitt begins to strangle Will. Kira attacks him with the fireplace poker until she successfully kills Pruitt. They run into Eden in the hall. She shoots Will in the shoulder. Eden then apologizes and shoots herself in the stomach. Kira grabs the gun. Now in shock, Kira attends to Will. David calls out for Eden and we learn that Tommy is still alive, hiding behind a wall. Kira notices that the gun is empty. Will shouts out to David, warning him that he has a gun. But David tells the couple that it is okay because it is time. All of a sudden, Tommy pulls David down the stairs. They scuffle and Tommy stabs David in the heart. Eden, struggling to breathe, calls Will over to her side. On her deathbed, she tells Will that she misses their son. She apologizes and asks Will to take her outside to die. Will, Kira, and Tommy watch as Eden takes her last breaths. The sounds of sirens are heard in the distance, as well as faint screaming, and helicopters churning overhead. As Tommy goes inside to retrieve the corpse of his boyfriend, Kira and Will venture to the side of the hill and notice the hillside filled with light from red lanterns. Theirs was not an isolated incident. Thousands of cult members were also carrying out the same plan that night. And the movie ends. If you enjoyed this video, please help us by clicking the like button and subscribing for more amazing content like this. Thanks for watching.